close your eyes for just a moment. Don't skip this. Don't scroll past. Don't tap away to something easier. Because what I'm about to tell you is something that most human beings on this planet will go their entire lives without ever hearing, and the ones who do hear it, most of them will reject it, because the truth, the real truth, is always the hardest thing to accept. So I need you to be still. I need you to breathe. I need you to let go just for now of the noise, the notifications, the endless scrolling, the voice in your head that tells you you're wasting time. You are not wasting time. You are exactly where you are supposed to be, reading exactly what you are supposed to read, because you didn't stumble onto this by accident. Nothing in your life has ever been an accident. Every road you walked, every detour you took, every door that closed in your face, and every window that somehow cracked open just enough to let in a sliver of light, it all led here, to this moment, to this message, and the message is simple. But it will shake you to your core if you are brave enough to receive it. You are the chosen one, not metaphorically, not as a feel-good affirmation, not as a motivational slogan printed on a coffee mug. Literally, cosmically, undeniably chosen. And today, I'm going to prove it to you in a way that no preacher, no philosopher, no ancient text has ever dared to do before. Part O Northeast, the greatest miracle ever performed. Let's talk about miracles. The world has seen some extraordinary ones. Water turned to wine, the blind restored to sight, the dead raised from their graves, mountains of religious literature, centuries of theological debate, billions of prayers lifted to the heavens, all in honor of the miraculous. And I am not here to diminish any of it. Every genuine act of grace and wonder that has ever occurred in human history deserves reverence. But I want you to think about something that almost nobody ever stops to consider. Something so obvious, so breathtaking in its scope, that the very familiarity of it has made us blind to its magnitude. I want you to think about the miracle of your own existence, not in the shallow, passing way we sometimes acknowledge it. Oh yes, life is precious, and then immediately return to worrying about our grocery list. I mean really, deeply, with the full force of your imagination. Consider what had to happen for you to be here. Your parents had to meet, but it's so much bigger than that. Their parents had to meet, and their parents before them, and going back through centuries of war and plague and famine and migration, back through ice ages and continent shifts, back through the very first moments when single-celled organisms learned to replicate every single link in that chain had to hold. One broken link, one different choice, one ancestor who turned left instead of right on a road in a country that may not even exist anymore, and you would not be here. The statistical probability of your specific existence has been calculated by mathematicians and biologists, and the number they arrive at is so incomprehensibly small that it makes winning the lottery look like a guaranteed outcome. You are, by every measurable scientific metric, a miracle. And here is where it gets profound. Here is where I need you to really pay attention. Even Jesus, whose miracles are among the most celebrated in all of human history, was born into a body. He chose a specific life, a specific time, a specific mission, but he did not choose to exist out of the infinite void of non-existence. You did. Before you were born, you were nothing, and then you were something. That transition, that leap from non-being to being, from silence to a heartbeat, from darkness to the first impossible breath, that is the greatest miracle ever performed. And you performed it. You are walking proof that the universe chose to express itself through you, specifically, uniquely, irreversibly. That is not small. That is everything. Part to what chosen really means. The word chosen has been weaponized throughout history. It's been used to divide, to elevate some and diminish others, to justify conquest and exclusion. I want to strip all of that away. I want to take it back to its root, its essence, its spiritual truth. To be chosen does not mean you are better than someone else. It means you were selected by the universe, by God, by the creative force at the center of all things. Call it whatever resonates with you, selected for a specific purpose that only you can fulfill. Think about how a musician writes a song. They don't write it generically for just anyone to sing. They hear a specific melody, a specific voice, a specific emotional truth they need to express, and they write for that. The universe operates the same way. It doesn't create human beings generically, off an assembly line, interchangeable and replaceable. Every soul that enters this world carries a unique frequency, a specific vibration, a particular combination of gifts, wounds, curiosities, passions, and perspectives that has never existed before and will never exist again. Your frequency is yours alone, and the universe didn't tune to that frequency by accident. It tuned to it because it needed exactly that note, in exactly this time, in exactly this place. The ancient Gnostic texts spoke of a divine spark, a fragment of the original light of creation, placed inside each human being. The Sufi mystics called it the secret, the hidden name of God that lives at the center of your soul. The Hindu tradition speaks of the Atman, the individual self that is, at its deepest level, identical with Brahman, the universal consciousness. Different languages, different centuries, different geographies, but they are all pointing at the same truth. There is something inside you that is not small. There is something inside you that is not ordinary. There is something inside you that the universe itself placed there on purpose, with intention, with care, and that something is waiting. It has always been waiting. It will wait forever if it has to, but it is hoping with every heartbeat, with every breath, that today might be the day you finally stop running from it and turn around to face it. Part 3: The Wounds of the Chosen. Here is the part nobody talks about in the motivational speeches. Here is the part that gets edited out of the highlight reels and the success stories. Being chosen is not comfortable. It is not a life of ease and smooth roads and constant applause. In fact, almost every person who has ever stepped into their true purpose, every prophet, every artist, every revolutionary, Every ordinary human being who dared to become extraordinary, they all share one thing in common. They were broken first. Moses stuttered. He was a murderer before he was a liberator. He spent 40 years in the desert, forgotten, before the burning bush appeared. David, the king who defeated Goliath and united a nation, was an adulterer, a man of blood, someone who failed catastrophically in his personal life even as he succeeded publicly. The Buddha left behind a palace and a family and Saturday in the wilderness, until he nearly died from fasting before enlightenment found him. Muhammad received his first revelation trembling in a cave, so terrified that he begged his wife to cover him, convinced he had gone mad. Every single one of them was broken before they were whole. And so are you. Whatever you have been through, the losses, the betrayals, the failures, the seasons when it felt like the universe had abandoned you completely, I need you to understand something. That was not punishment. That was preparation. The diamond does not emerge from the earth polished and gleaming. It is formed under pressure so intense that most materials would be destroyed by it. The pressure is not the enemy of the diamond. The pressure is the process. Your pain is not evidence that you are unloved. Your pain is evidence that you are being shaped. The broken places in you, the cracks in your story, those are exactly where the light gets in. Leonard Cohen wrote that there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. And the chosen one is not the person who never cracked. The chosen one is the person who cracked open wide enough to let the wholesome through. Part for the test of the chosen. Every great tradition, every hero's journey, every meaningful story ever told follows the same arc: the call, the resistance, the descent, the transformation, the return. Joseph Campbell called it the monomyth, the one story that humanity keeps telling itself across every culture, every century, every corner of the globe. And it always involves a test, not a test that comes from your enemies, not a test that comes from the economy or the weather, or the circumstances of your birth. The deepest test, the one that defines whether you step into your destiny or spend your life at its threshold, is always the same. Do you trust yourself enough to become who you were made to be? That sounds simple. It is not simple, because becoming who you were made to be means shedding who you have been pretending to be. It means disappointing people who have built their comfort on your smallness. It means walking through doors that have no guarantee written on the other side. It means trusting a voice inside you that the world has spent years trying to convince you was not reliable. The test of the chosen one is not whether you can perform miracles for an audience. The test is whether you can keep believing in your own purpose when no one is watching. When the applause stops, when the money runs out, when the friend group dissolves, and the relationship ends and the plan falls apart, and you are standing in the rubble of everything you thought your life was supposed to look like in that moment, in that exact, brutal, clarifying moment, the question rises up like smoke from the wreckage. Do you still believe? Do you still trust the frequency you were born carrying? Do you still believe that the universe made you on purpose? That is the test. And the people who pass it, who say yes in that moment, even through tears, even through terror, even when every rational argument says no. Those are the ones who change the world. Those are the ones history remembers. Those are the ones who look back from the other side of their transformation and say, I understand now why it had to be that hard. Part 5. The Unica Northeast SS that cannot be pied. Let's talk about something the modern world has made profoundly confusing: originality. We live in an age of comparison. Social media has constructed a global mirror in which we are constantly measuring our lives, our faces, our accomplishments, our relationships against the curated highlight reels of billions of other people. And in that mirror, many of us have come to a terrible conclusion: that we are not enough, that someone else is doing it better, that our gifts are not special, our story is not unique, our voice has nothing new to say. I want to dismantle that lie completely, not gently, completely. You are not in competition with anyone else who has ever lived on this earth. You cannot be, because there is no one who has your specific combination of nature and nurture, your genetics, your childhood wounds, particular way of seeing a sunset, your specific laugh, your personal map of grief and joy and longing and love. Even identical twins who share the same DNA develop different personalities, different perspectives, different souls. There is no template for you. There has never been a template for you. You are not a copy of anything that came before. You are an original, the first and only edition of yourself that will ever exist in the entire history and future of the universe. Think about what that means. Every word you write, every song you hum, every idea that lights up behind your eyes, every act of kindness you perform for a stranger, every dream you dare to articulate in the dark, it comes from a source that is completely unique. It comes from you. And when you withhold that, when you dim your light because someone else seems to be shining brighter, when you silence your voice because you're afraid it doesn't measure up, you are not being humble. You are committing a cosmic theft. You are stealing from the world the one thing it cannot get anywhere else: yourself. The chosen one does not compete. The chosen one contributes. And when you contribute fully, authentically, unapologetically from the depths of who you truly are, there is no competition possible, because no one else is playing your game. No one else can. Part 6. The mission that only you can complete. There is a concept in the Jewish mystical tradition called Tikkun Olam, repair of the world. The idea is that the world arrived in a broken state, and each human being carries specific fragments of the original divine light that, when they live their purpose fully, help restore what was shattered. I love this concept not because of its theological specifics, but because of its implication that the world needs you, that it is incomplete without your particular contribution, that there are things which cannot be fixed, cannot be healed, cannot be created, cannot be understood until you show up fully as yourself and do the thing that only you can do. This is not arrogance. Arrogance is believing you are better than others. This is something entirely different. It is the humility of recognizing that you have a responsibility, that you were given gifts, and gifts, by their nature, are not for the recipient, they are for the community. The artist who paints their truth does not paint for themselves alone. They paint for every person who will stand in front of that canvas and feel, for the first time, that someone else has seen the exact inside of their soul. The teacher who shows up every day with fire in their heart is not teaching for themselves alone. They are teaching for the student in the back row, who is one sentence away from deciding to drop out or deciding to change the world. The parent who chooses to break a generational cycle of pain is not doing it for themselves alone. They are doing it for the grandchildren who will never know what they were saved from. Every act of authentic self-expression, every moment of genuine courage, every decision to rise when it would be so much easier to stay down, these ripple outward in ways we cannot measure and will never fully know. You may never see the full impact of your presence on this earth. That does not make it any less real. The tree does not see the fruit that falls from its branches become food for someone 3 villages away, but the fruit falls nonetheless, and someone is fed. Part 7: The Return of the King. There is a moment in every awakening when something shifts, when the person you were, the smaller, more frightened, more doubtful version of yourself begins to dissolve, not violently, not all at once, but gradually. The way winter dissolves into spring, so slowly you almost don't notice, until one day you step outside and you realize the frost is gone, and something is blooming that wasn't there before. This is the return of the king. In mythology, the king does not begin as a king. He begins as an orphan, an outcast, a wanderer, someone who doesn't know who he is or where he belongs. He is driven from his home, or he loses everything he loves, or he is betrayed by those closest to him, and in the darkness of that loss, he descends. He goes to the underworld metaphorically, and there he faces himself, not the self the world sees, not the self he performs for other people, the real self, the raw, undisguised, undefended truth of who he is beneath every mask and every role he has ever played. And in that confrontation, in that terrifying, sacred meeting with his own depths, he finds something, not power in the conventional sense, not strength that crushes others into submission, but a different kind of power, the power of complete self-knowledge, the power that comes from having been broken and having chosen, consciously, deliberately, to be restored. The return of the king is not a triumphant military parade. It is the quiet, certain, unshakable walk of a person who knows exactly who they are and exactly what they are here to do. It is the way you carry yourself when you have stopped needing anyone else to validate your existence. When you have stopped asking for permission to be magnificent, when you look in the mirror and you recognize, maybe for the very first time, the chosen one looking back at you. Part 8: The Gifts You Have Been Afraid to Open. I want to ask you something personal. What is the thing you dream about? When you allow yourself to dream without limitation, what is the vision that lights up your imagination when no one is watching and you forget, for a moment, to be practical and responsible and realistic? What is the thing you have told yourself 100 times is too big for you, too impossible, too arrogant to even whisper out loud. Because I believe, I genuinely, deeply believe that the dreams you are most afraid to own are the ones you were specifically designed to live. The universe does not plant desires in hearts that were not built to pursue them. That longing you feel for something more, something deeper, something truer, something that would make every sacrifice worth it. That longing is not a cruel joke. It is a compass. It is the signal sent from the part of you that knows your purpose, trying to get the attention of the part of you that is still too afraid to trust it. The gifts you have been afraid to open are the ones that were wrapped most beautifully, because the universe always saves its best gifts for the people who are willing to unwrap them slowly, to sit with the mystery of them, to earn the understanding of them through the patience of genuine commitment. You have gifts that you have not yet fully discovered. You have capabilities that have not yet been tested. You have a depth of wisdom, compassion, creativity, and courage that you have only scratched the surface of. And the reason you haven't gone deeper is not because the gifts aren't there. It's because going deeper requires you to believe, without external proof, that what's waiting at the bottom is worth the dive. This is faith, not religious faith necessarily, though it can be that too, but the primal, gutsy, world-shaking faith in yourself. The faith that says, I was made for something real, and I am willing to go find out what it is. That faith is the key, and you have always had it. You have just been afraid to use it. Part 9 Northeast. The moment of accord Aviation. There is a moment, and if you have ever experienced it, you know exactly what I mean when everything changes, when the noise goes quiet and the confusion dissolves, and suddenly, with absolute clarity, you know what you are supposed to do. You know who you are supposed to be. You know that everything you have been through was leading to this. I call it the moment of activation. The mystics call it awakening. The psychologists might call it a peak experience or a moment of flow so complete that the boundaries between self and purpose dissolve entirely. But whatever name you give it, the experience is the same. You feel, with every cell of your body, that you are in alignment with something much larger than yourself, that you are a note being played by an instrument you cannot fully see, that you belong not to a place or a person, but to a purpose. These moments can come in the most unexpected ways, in the middle of a conversation, on a walk alone at dawn, in the depths of grief, in the quiet after a prayer, in the sudden recognition that the thing you were most afraid of was the very thing you were most equipped to face. And when that moment comes, if it hasn't come yet, it will. The only question that matters is, what do you do with it? Because activation is not enough. The spark is not the fire. The calling is not the accomplishment. What separates the chosen ones, who transform their lives and the world, from the ones who had the spark and let it go out, is what they do in the hours and days after the activation. They do not wait for the feeling to come back before they act. They act, and the feeling follows. They do not wait for the world to confirm their calling before they commit to it. They commit, and the confirmation follows. They do not wait to be worthy before they begin. They begin, and the worthiness reveals itself through the beginning. This is the secret of the chosen one that no one tells you. You do not need to be ready. You just need to start. Part 10. What you have that Jesus Northeast ver had. Now we arrive at the most sacred, most audacious, most important part of this message. I want to speak it carefully because it deserves care, and I want to speak it boldly because it deserves boldness. Jesus, whether you regard him as the Son of God, a great spiritual teacher, a historical prophet, or a mythological figure representing the human potential for divine love, was, by nearly every account, extraordinary. He healed the sick, he fed the hungry, he challenged power, he loved the unlovable, he forgave his executioners, he embodied a level of compassion and wisdom that changed the course of history. And yet, there is one thing Jesus, as history records him, never did. He never had to live in the digital age. He never had to maintain his spiritual center while being bombarded by 10,000 messages a day, each one engineered by algorithms designed to hijack his attention and monetize his anxiety. He never had to face the comparison culture of social media, the existential dread of climate crisis, the cognitive overload of a world producing more information. Every 2 days then was created in all of human history up to 2003. He never had to find his purpose in a world that offers infinite choices and provides almost no wisdom about how to choose. He never had to stay awake in a world specifically designed to keep you asleep. But you do, and you are doing it. Every morning you wake up in this overwhelming, overstimulating, often heartbreaking world, and you choose, even imperfectly, even stumbling, to keep going, to keep caring, to keep trying to be a little better than yesterday. That is not a small thing. That is extraordinary. And the fact that you are here in this specific moment of human history, with all of its chaos and complexity and unprecedented challenges, that is not a mistake. You were chosen for this moment, not despite its difficulty, but because of it. Because this moment needs people who have the capacity to hold both the darkness and the light, who can see through the noise to the signal, who can love in a world that has made loving harder than it has ever been. That is you. That has always been you. You are the chosen one for this time. And this time, with all of its weight and all of its wonder, is waiting for you to fully arrive. Part 11. The Legacy of the Chosen. Let's talk about legacy, not the legacy of monuments and statues and history books, though some of you will leave those. Let's talk about the invisible legacy, the one you weave into the world every single day without fully realizing it. Every person you treat with kindness when they are difficult, that kindness does something. It shifts something in their internal weather, however slightly, and they carry that shift into their next interaction, and that person carries it into theirs. And the ripple moves outward in ways that will never be traced back to you. Every time you chose honesty when a lie would have been easier, that honesty built something real in the fabric of the relationships around you, and real things last. Every time you decided to be curious instead of closed, generous instead of guarded, present instead of distracted, You are building a legacy in the hearts and minds of the people around you. The chosen one's legacy is not primarily about achievement. It is about influence in the deepest sense of that word, the inflowing of spirit from one human being to another. The way a candle does not lose its light by lighting another candle. The way a garden does not diminish by sharing its seeds. You have already begun your legacy. It is already written in the lives of people who know you, in the conversations that change someone's mind, in the laughter you brought into a room that needed it, in the times you stayed when everyone else left, in the quiet examples of character and courage that no one filmed and no one posts, but everyone who witnessed them will carry for the rest of their lives. This is what it means to be chosen, not to be famous, not to be powerful, not to be celebrated, to be real, to be present, to be fully, completely, courageously yourself, and in doing so, to give every person who encounters you permission to be the same. Part 12, the final call. We are coming to the end of this message, but this is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of its most important chapter, and I want to close with this. In every tradition, in every mythology, in every iteration of the hero's journey, there comes a moment of choice. The hero stands at the threshold. Behind them is everything they have ever known, the familiar, the safe, the certain. Ahead of them is the unknown, the calling, the life they were made for. And in that moment, the universe does not push them. It never pushes. It only calls. The call comes in many forms. Sometimes it sounds like a whisper in the middle of the night. Sometimes it sounds like the deafening silence after everything falls apart. Sometimes it sounds like a video you watched on a Sunday afternoon that somehow said exactly what you needed to hear. But the call is always the same message, underneath whatever form it takes. The message is, you are ready. You have always been ready. The doubts are not evidence against your readiness. They are evidence of how much this matters. The fear is not a stop sign. It is a signal that you are standing at the edge of your own expansion. The people who seem fearless are not fearless. They simply decided that the calling was louder than the fear. And now I am asking you, I am calling to you, from this moment to yours, to make the same decision. Not tomorrow, not when things settle down, not when you feel more prepared, more worthy, more certain. Now, in this moment, with everything you have and everything you are, choose to be the chosen one you were born to be, because the world has been waiting for you, longer than you know, more desperately than it can say. And you magnificent, chosen, singular, irreplaceable, you are finally ready to answer. Oh, UTRO the charge. So here is your charge. When you close this page, do not return to smallness. Do not go back to the version of yourself that waits for permission. Do not go back to the comparison and the self-doubt and the comfortable mediocrity that the world has spent years convincing you is all you deserve. Take one step, just one, toward the life you know you are meant to live. Write the first sentence of the book. Make the call you have been postponing. Have the conversation you have been avoiding. Forgive the person you have been holding hostage in the prison of your resentment, including yourself. Start the thing. Not perfectly, just started, because the universe responds to movement. It cannot steer a parked car, but the moment you begin to move even slowly, even uncertainly, even with trembling hands and a quaking heart, the path begins to appear beneath your feet. That is the promise. That has always been the promise. And you, the chosen one, the miracle who emerged from the void of non-existence to walk this earth at this exact moment in history. You have the courage to claim it. I know you do, because you made it this far, and that was never an accident. Now go. The world needs what only you can give it, and you have kept it waiting long enough. The privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. Joseph Campbell.